Hello, sailor. Doing a quick vid for Mr. Ed. Great stories, Ed. um, well, here we go. Die Deutsche Kriegsmarine. My friend Matthias in Germany sent me this. His dad was in the Kriegsmarine. I think he was an anti-aircraft gunner on the Tirpitz. And up in Norway, where some of your ancestors come from and some of mine. And luckily for him, he got transferred somewhere else, and just before the Brits blew it to smithereens with a tall boy bomb. And this is the biggest battleship ever built by the Japanese, the Yamato. An absolute monster. Would make the Tirpitz look like a tugboat. This thing was massive. And it had a sister ship. This is the Yamato. I can't remember the name of the sister ship, so I'll call the sister ship the Tomato. They were both sunk by the US Air Force just before the end of the war. Neither of them ever fired a shot in anger, except that right before the very end, they sent the Tomato and the Yamato out, which, was just a waste of time. So they were both blown to the shit house and never achieved anything. Wasted all their resources, building this thing. But it is a beautiful looking boat. Let's face it. Yep, the biggest ever built, and it was battleships were out of date by the end of World War One, and I cannot believe that the Japs and the Germans were still making them. The Iowa class, the American ones were pretty damn excellent battleships too, but they weren't like, they were probably only 14-inch guns. This frigging thing was like 18-inch guns or something, but useless against a concerted air attack. Anyway, how do I get on to that? Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Midway. Well, lucky for you, Ed, that you were serving your country. You're probably serving that lard ass bastard on the ship that gave you grief. You're probably serving him his what do they call it over there? Beans and corn pone or something, whatever you have for breakfast on the Midway. But Australia had its own aircraft carrier too. After World War II, we had one, the HMAS Melbourne, and it was, unlike the Yamato, HMAS Melbourne sank 2 destroyers. Yes, our mighty aircraft carrier, the HMAS Melbourne. Unfortunately, the first destroyer it sank was the HMAS Voyager, an Australian destroyer, and with a loss of about 70 lives or something in the cold, murky waters of Jervis Bay on the south coast of New South Wales. And that was in about 1964. I think the captain was a notorious drunkard. And anyway, same with the Sydney, which was sunk in 1941 off the coast of Western Australia. It had been very successful. It was an Australian medium cruiser. It had been very, very successful in the Mediterranean. It helped sink an Italian battleship, but it got knocked out by a German raider, the Cormoran, which actually was almost the Cormoran had scary armaments hidden on board. It had torpedoes and everything, but the Sydney went down, lost all hands lost. It still managed to sink the Cormoran, but the thing is, it should never have happened because the captain, the guy that captained the Sydney in the Mediterranean, that captain was given a break, and they brought on a new captain. He's Collins, I think his name was. I shouldn't name names because it could be the wrong one, but And he was a notorious piss pot too. And the stupid prick just pulled up alongside this German corpsman and said, "Excuse me, are you a raider?" or something, I don't know. He basically killed himself and his crew through complete, total incompetence. What a CUNT. My mum knew a few of the boys on that ship. Fuck. Anyway, this is the glorious Australian Navy I'm telling you about here. So the Sydney was sunk because the captain was a filthy piss pot. The bloody Melbourne's captain was a goddamn piss pot, and he ran over the Voyager on a training exercise. Sorry about that. And then in the 70s, when you were cruising around the bloody Pacific having a good time in the bordellos and I mean the boardrooms of the Midway, yeah, good old Melbourne sunk another destroyer. No, it wasn't a Vietnamese destroyer. It wasn't even a Russian one. It was a US destroyer called the Frank E. Evans. This is true. I'm not bullshitting. And I shouldn't be laughing. It's fucking awful. They lost about 50, 60, 70 sailors when that went down. So, yeah, she was pensioned off and was sent off to Japan, of all places, and turned into bloody Toyotas. Or even better, Mitsubishis that used to make Zeros that bombed the shit out of fucking Darwin and Broome in Western Australia. You know, I love my Mitsubishi GT, but by God, it's a great car. But when you think the Mitsubishi were armaments builders long before they made cars, but this was probably built by Mitsubishi engineer, probably, I don't know. Anyway, just a quick one from Mr. Ed. So there it is, the glorious Australian naval record. Yes, HMAS Melbourne.